Hey, hey. Really the only thing that gon' be normal is distribution. Normal folks gon' infuse some. Optimize your lineups and you feed the rest, you mute them. Turning it up, these numbers are loud. Peeping this game from a nimbus is wild. Making it rain. While I embrace all this risk, I'm insane. Talking about that best bail, I'm the best rest till into the next world. Guess I got next still. Best bail, I'm the best rest till into the next world. Guess I got next still. Hey, hey. Really the only thing that gon' be normal is distribution. Normal folks gon' infuse some. Optimize your lineups and you feed the rest, you mute them. Turning it up, these numbers are loud. Peeping this game from a nimbus is wild. Making it rain. While I embrace all this risk, I'm insane. Talking about that best bail, I'm the best rest till into the next world. Guess I got next still. Best bail, I'm the best rest till into the next world. Guess I got next still. Hey, hey. Really the only thing that gon' be normal is distribution. Normal folks gon' infuse some. Optimize your lineups and you feed the rest, you mute them. Turning it up, these numbers are loud. Peeping this game from a nimbus is wild. Making it rain. While I embrace all this risk, I'm insane. Talking about that best bail, I'm the best rest till into the next world. Guess I got next still. Best bail, I'm the best rest till into the next world. Guess I got next still.
Welcome to the Best Bell Fantasy Football Podcast and live stream. I'm Bradley Stalder. Tonight, we're going to be jumping into some stardom sit-ems based on your comments and your questions that you have for Week 11. I'm giving you some of the best fantasy advice in the industry. You're like, but Bradley, some people in the industry say they're giving the best advice. How do we know that you're giving some of the best advice? People will say it's like 9 out of 10 dentists recommend this toothpaste, but we only inventoried 5 dentists and only 4.5 of them said yes. Look at the Fantasy Pros actually rankings contest. Top 25 and consistently near the top in all of these categories. So, I mean, crushing this year. Top 25 out of 200. People that claim that they know fantasy. People claim that they know the game. They know ball. I mean, yeah. Look, every year I've gotten better. This is my 3rd year in the Fantasy Pros Accuracy Rankings contest. My first year, I finished 100th out of 200. So I was given, among industry experts, I was giving average advice. Last year, I finished 50th out of 200. This year, we're up to 25, and I've been 25 the last couple weeks. So it's been pretty great, giving some awesome advice, crushing it here on Best Bell Fantasy and also on Player Profiler, where you can find me on Thursday nights doing Thursday Night Tailgate, and also on Saturday nights where Billy Muzio and I have been crushing that scene of your stardom sit-ems on Saturday nights. The Dominator lineup lockdown edition is crushing 9 p.m. Eastern on the Player Profiler channel. Make sure you guys are checking that out every week. Billy is absolutely crushing this year. He's had 2 top 7 finishes on the year. I'm in the top 25 overall. We're having a great season at Player Profiler, and then here at Best Bell Fantasy, bring you some content where you get my undivided attention. You get your comments answered. If you are familiar with this, I give you the advice. You are the center of this show, the Best Bell Fantasy Show. And I want to answer your questions because it's about you. It's about giving you what you want. I'm giving the people what they want. Answering their fantasy questions. Giving them some of the best advice in the industry. And of course, throwing a couple jokes in here and there. Yeah, look, this is what it's all about. Giving some of the best advice. given some hot takes from here and there. Look, the reality is some people try to clown, right? I've gotten things wrong. In fact, there was a monumental mess up that I had at the beginning of the year when David Montgomery came back from injury. And I said there was no way that David Montgomery would get 150 yards and 3 touchdowns. And lo and behold, David Montgomery gets 3 touchdowns in the game. And it's just written of irony, right? But David Montgomery has played very well. And I expect that David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs will continue to be crushing. In fact, news just came out today in an interview. Amon-Ra St. Brown was interviewing Jahmyr Gibbs and asked him about that other touchdown. And Gibbs was like, well, actually, David Montgomery was supposed to be on the field, but Monty asked if I wanted the touchdown. And Jahmyr was like, yeah, I want the touchdown. So Montgomery literally subbed out so Jahmyr Gibbs could get the touchdown. What a good teammate. What a great teammate David Montgomery is, but also in our hearts. We want those fantasy points if you drafted David Montgomery. So I'll give you some of the best advice. Of course, check out my rankings. I will be posting them tomorrow before the Thursday night game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals. So check out bestbellfantasy.com and you can see the rankings. Go down to rankings, weekly rankings, and I'll have that updated tomorrow. It's still from last week. It's fine. I finished in the top 50 or so last week. But yeah, this is really great. You should check out bestbellfantasy.com for the rankings that I'll be having posted there starting tomorrow for week number 11. Well, I already see some comments in the chat, and I'm here to answer those as we go through tonight's show. That's what this is about. It's about you guys. It's about the community. It's about answering your questions. It's one of the best things because people want to know, what are Bradley's rankings? How are we to approach these players? And the first question, Jack NBA NFL boy. Is Joe Mixon a start? I'm replacing Mixon this week with Brian Robinson. So Mixon and Robinson are a coin flip in my rankings for week number 11. They're right next to each other. And I'm going to have to do a little deep diving as Joe Mixon has finished, no lower than running back 28 any week this year. 2 of the last 3, though, he's finished as a top 12 running back. He's getting the volume. I mean, yeah, sure, only 14 opportunities in the game against Houston. But against Baltimore, last time he went out, 13 for 59, 4 for 36 on 5 targets, finishes the running back 20. I mean, we're going to be okay with running back 20. Yeah, we're fine with that. He's not going to disappoint us. He's not going to dissolve on us. He's pretty safe with his volume. Chris Evans isn't doing anything. Travion Williams isn't doing anything behind him. Chase Brown on IR. Yeah, this is clearly a volume play for Joe Mixon. Whereas Brian Robinson, I think, has been involved a lot more in the passing game than we expected. And also we've seen the spike weeks from Brian Robinson. Twice so far, Brian Robinson has finished as the running back 1 on a week. The running back 1. Now, he did have some chunk plays, but this was a player that was an easy mid-round click and a very unsexy pick. A player that we knew got volume last year, but we were not certain about his pass-catching role given the existence of Antonio Gibson, but also he was recovering from being shot last offseason, right before the start of the season. So Brian Robinson is paying off running back 16, 18, 24, wherever he was being drafted, because right now he is the running back 4 in total fantasy points. Yes, Joe Mixon has a slightly higher floor, but we're talking about a ceiling here for Brian Robinson that is accessed more than Joe Mixon has shown over the last year. As I said, Joe Mixon hasn't finished lower than running back 28 in any game so far, but Brian Robinson hasn't finished lower than running back 32. But Robinson has, as I said, 2 number 1 overall finishes. Joe Mixon's best week is running back 7. So we like what Brian Robinson has done. He gets the New York Giants this week, which, I mean, Rico Dowdle was having himself a game against the Giants. And this is, again, an interdivisional matchup. And so the Giants, they're getting crushed right now. And I think that the Giants are in a really bad spot because they don't have the offensive firepower to get back into games if their defense isn't elite. And there are some nice pieces on the Giants defense for sure, but they can only be out there so long. It's similar to, but not exactly like the Packers, where the Packers have some real nice pieces on defense, but their offense can't keep up with how much pressure, their defense has been put on because their offense isn't that great. So the defense keeps getting worn down and worn down and worn down. It leads to injuries. It leads to frustration. It leads to eventually losses and poor decisions. So Brian Robinson, I think, is a good start this week in a good matchup against the Giants, whereas the Cincinnati Bengals face off against the Baltimore Ravens. Remember, the last time that Joe Mixon played the Baltimore Ravens, he finished as the running back 20, 13 for 59. So, I mean, he got his 4 yards a carry plus. He got 4 receptions for 36 yards in that game, but he didn't get the touchdown. And he's not an explosive player. 3.9 yards per attempt, not good. And we know that he's never been like that explosive player over the last couple of years in terms of yards created per attempt and yards per attempt. So Joe Mixon is a player that we're willing to bench. So I think moving Brian Robinson over Joe Mixon is the right move for this week. Awesome. Thanks, Jack, NBA NFL boy. Appreciate you jumping in. If you have questions that you want answered in this show, drop them in the comments section on YouTube. And if you like the content and you haven't subscribed yet, smash the subscribe button, guys. That's how you support the channel. Andy the Fork, how's it going, Bradley? Thanks for doing these. My question at the moment, well, he needs a running back and one flex. Are we going with Jerome Ford, Devin Singletary, or Tyler Lockett? Appreciate it. So, Andy the Fork, we got a couple pieces of context to attack in this question. One is, of course, that Jerome Ford is going to be affected by the existence of Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Right. This is a rookie who was very mobile in college, UCLA, I believe he was, but he was very mobile. He could make some throws, but he looked atrocious in his NFL debut the last time Deshaun Watson was out. And for those who missed it, Deshaun Watson is out for the season with a shoulder injury. And he also has a high ankle sprain. Not that matters to him being out for the season, but Watson played through that injury in the victory over the Baltimore Ravens last week. So the Ravens are reeling after getting beaten by a fractured quarterback. That's got to hurt. But I don't think it's good for Jerome Ford that you have not only a mobile quarterback, but an unproven quarterback who may struggle to get the Browns into the red zone or into the end zone. Give them goal line opportunities. I don't think that they're going to be in abundance anymore. So Jerome Ford is a player that I'm not looking to start optimistically. Now, Ford and Singletary are back-to-back in my rankings initially. Obviously, it's Wednesday. We're going to be doing shifts and changes throughout the rest of the week. That's why tomorrow, when I do one more update to the rankings before Thursday Night Football, you should check out bestbellfantasy.com and go to weekly rankings. We'll go to rankings and then weekly rankings. And then you'll see the rankings there, and you'll be able to make some determinations based on PPR, half PPR scoring, thanks to Fantasy Pros. So I put those publicly so that y'all know, right? And I mean, throughout the week, I make small little tweaks and shifts here and there based on the research that I have and based on the matchups and any other news that may be breaking. So small tweaks here or there. You're not going to see massive shifts. But if there's coin flips, that's where you got to make the decisions. I can give you tiers or I can give you my rankings, but you've got to make the decision of whether or not, this is close enough for you to make the call or whether You're just like, Bradley, I see something that you don't, and I'm just going to go with something else. Fine. So be it. So be it. You run your fantasy teams. I'm here to bring you advice. So this is meeting the need of, you want advice, I'm going to give it to you. So the other part is that I said Ford and Singletary are neck and neck, but the reason why I think we should lean Singletary if we're picking one running back is because of Arizona. Right? Arizona gives up a ton of fantasy points, and they're now in a good position to keep up. Right? Josh Dobbs was doing all right. We got to give props where props are due. Josh Dobbs is playing well for Arizona, well enough, anyways. But Kyler Murray is Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is a Pro Bowl level quarterback who is coming off the ACL. He looked mobile enough. He got a rushing touchdown in this past game. And that means that they can keep up with the defense. Dameon Pierce, if he is out, if he's out, that leaves Singletary with so much opportunity. Against the Cincinnati Bengals, Devin Singletary had 32 opportunities, 2 targets, and 30 carries. Now, he only had 13 carries for 26 yards week 9 against Tampa Bay when Dameon Pierce was out due to the ankle injury. But the Tampa Bay front 7 is completely different than the Cincinnati front 7. And remember, Sam Hubbard was out for the Cincinnati Bengals. There were other injuries as well to the Bengals defense. And Arizona is reeling at defense too. Yes. So I like Devin Singletary this week, proving to us, the Houston Texans coaching staff is proving to us that they're willing to give Devin Singletary significant workload. Right, over the past 4 games, Singletary is no fewer than 10 carries, and he's had 2 targets in each of those games, so at least 12 opportunities. But now with Dameon Pierce out in a good matchup, in a game that can become a shootout real quickly, like we know that CJ Stroud can get the ball into the red zone and the end zone, give some goal line opportunities to Devin Singletary. We know that can be the case, especially against Arizona. This is a game that I anticipate to be a nice little shootout. Let's look at the initial over-under for this game. The Arizona-Houston game is over-under per DraftKings Sportsbook, 48.5 points. And based on what I'm looking at on the slate, it's the highest of the week. We want pieces of this game. We especially want the starting running back in this game and for the Houston Texans, and that's going to be Devin Singletary. I think we can move Singletary up in our rankings, and I think we're starting him over Jerome Ford against a very tough front 7 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Remember, Alex Highsmith is back. TJ Watt is back, and we've got a few other pieces in that Pittsburgh defense that can really cause havoc, So Jerome Ford, the team level, the matchup, and also because Devin Singletary has a good matchup and there's a lot of narratives plus and a lot of narratives negative for Singletary versus Jerome Ford. So give me Devin Singletary in that running back position. Now, Tyler Lockett was just listed as questionable this week. It's also very interesting that Lockett, he's had his ups and downs, let me tell you. Because he was wide receiver 50 in week 7 against Arizona, which we thought would be a smash matchup. He was wide receiver 12 against one of the tougher defenses in the NFL, the Cleveland Browns. Then he was wide receiver 53 again against Baltimore. It's tough defense. But then torched Washington, 8 for 92, finishes the wide receiver 8. Plus he scored a touchdown in that game. So what kind of matchup is it against the Rams for Tyler Lockett? Well, last time he faced the Rams, 2 for 10 on 4 targets. He finished as the wide receiver 89. And the Rams overall in the season are a tough matchup for wide receivers. So I think I'm going to go with Jerome Ford and Devin Singletary, given the volume, given the matchups. I'd rather have Jerome Ford over Tyler Lockett as of right now. Obviously, Lockett, he's a big play waiting to happen, but we've also seen him get bottled up a little bit more. He's the spike week, but he's the spike week king, but he's also the deflated zero that can happen for your lineups. And I think that this, for the Rams coming out of the bye, is not a good matchup for Seattle at LA. So there's a home game for the Rams. Tough matchup. He's previously not produced against the Rams this season. Yeah, there's just our narratives that exist for Tyler Lockett to not be the play here. Jerome Ford and Devin Singletary, I would lean over Lockett. Okay, a real gopher. Is that a gopher? Is it a real gopher or is it a hedgehog, a groundhog? Speaking of Groundhog's Day, it's my favorite holiday. For those who don't know, Groundhog Day is my favorite holiday. I don't talk about it too often. People say, but Bradley, what do you do to celebrate Groundhog Day? Well, number one, I take it off. I observe Groundhog Day, take it off from work. I don't go into work on Groundhog Day. It is a special holiday for me. I celebrate privately. I don't go into details necessarily about it very often, but I thought that I would share it with you tonight if you're okay with it. So I don't go into work. I don't do any work that day. Instead, I watch Groundhog Day and listen to I Got You, Babe by Sonny and Cher on repeat the entire day. I also discovered that there is a Groundhog Day musical. There's a Groundhog Day musical. I didn't know this existed until last year when I took off for Groundhog Day, and I decided to find out what more I could do to celebrate Groundhog Day. And I decided that over and over again, every year, I'll do the same thing. I'll take off from work. I'll watch Groundhog Day. I will listen to I Got You, Babe by Sonny and Cher. And now I've been able to add a new tradition to Groundhog Day, and that is watching the musical Groundhog Day. So this is a very exciting thing. I'm glad that we were able to have a real gopher in the comments today. And how are we feeling about Javante for Pollard? Javante for Pollard. Yeah, so Javante looked like he has looked the part. He's passed the eye test. Like he's very much past the eye test. Tony Pollard, on the other hand, it's been frustrating because he's gotten so much opportunity to score touchdowns. In fact, Tony Pollard going into week number 10 had the third most red zone carries of any running back in the entire NFL, but he only had 2 touchdowns. Based on the amount of carries that he got, he should have 5 or 6 going into week number 10. That did not happen. Now, Javante Williams over the last 2 weeks has been the running back 9 and the running back 6 in fantasy points, and he has only finished outside the top 33 of running backs once this entire season. So he's been a pretty high floor running back, and when he scores the touchdown, he can be top 10. Which he has been the last 2 weeks. He scored touchdowns each of those weeks. And in fact, Javante Williams has finished with fewer than 3 targets one time, and that was against Kansas City. Every other week, Javante Williams at least 3 targets. He's had 4 and 4 and 6 in the other games. Man, it's tough because we really do like Pollard. We love his opportunity. He's got another chance to have a get right game against Carolina, but the problem is he gets messed over in the game scripts. Because we're looking for a player who can convert these goal line touchdowns. But what Dak has been doing is he's been airing out the ball so much more to CeeDee Lamb, which I don't blame him. CeeDee Lamb is the best player on the team, and he deserves to get those targets. He can make plays. He gets open. He earns the target share. CeeDee Lamb, for sure, is the best offensive player on the team. So can we fault Dak or McCarthy for trying to force feed CeeDee Lamb the ball? No, we can't. And even against the Giants, he got 15 carries, but Tony Pollard hasn't gotten more than 55 rushing yards since week 3 against Arizona. Now, week 3 against Arizona, he did have 122 rushing yards and 3 receptions in that game. So I think it's a little bit of recency frustration that is getting under our grill about Tony Pollard. Because before week 8 at the bye, Tony Pollard had 2 weeks outside the top 15 of running back. So 4 of his 6 games, running back 15 or better. He was a pretty high floor running back with running back 5 week under his belt. Problem is something has just not been right with his efficiency. And I wonder if Tony Pollard, I mean, he's not built to be a between the tackles grinder. That's the problem. Tony Pollard's not built to be Ezekiel Elliott. That's not his role. But the problem is the Dallas Cowboys didn't address that role at all this offseason. They didn't sign Dalvin Cook. They didn't re-sign Zeke. And Tony Pollard thrives in this get me in space, get me an end around, get me speed. His skill set is speed and agility. And the problem is the Dallas Cowboys aren't using him to highlight his speed. They're putting him between the tackles and the guards. That's the problem. That is the problem for Tony Pollard. And I mean, sure, like the Dallas Cowboys have had their ups and downs in the offensive line, but Pollard has not looked good between the tackles. He's looked all right in space. Problem is that the space is not necessarily there for him. Yeah. So it's been pretty bad. Great. So looking at some of the things about Tony Pollard, let me pull up. I'm going to share this just to prove a point here. I've got the Tony Pollard rushing direction here. So the Tony Pollard rushing direction, as shown by PFF, if you guys don't have a subscription to PFF, like it is a game changer for you. Okay, so left end on the outside, yeah, only 3.3, but then 5.0 is pretty much stuck in the mid 4s in the middle right here. Okay. And that's the problem. So he's got his 5.0 at the left tackle and the right end 4.7. So on the outsides, we've got the highest yards per carry. Problem is he doesn't get a lot of those volume, right? He's got 26 on the right end, 6 on the left tackle. That's not going to cut it, right? If we're trying to use Tony Pollard in space to get him, extra yardage, right? Instead, we're seeing a lot of between, mid left, mid right, right guard, all about 4 to 4.2 yards per carry. And he's trying to get yards after contact per attempt, like 2.7, 3.11. Like those are not earth shattering, right? Those are not going to move the needle for us for Tony Pollard. So it's just been overall kind of meh with Tony Pollard. But we don't see optimism for Pollard to make those, for McCarthy or Pollard to make changes or shifts, right? The Dallas Cowboys have been blowing out teams, or like Tony Pollard is just being run between the tackles. So they're even taking off the field, or they're running between the tackles. It's not going to work. Or even mostly between the guards, right? Left guard 13, 31, 19, 16. It's wild. So I don't have hope for Tony Pollard to get back into that elite, that elite company. Is not being used that way. He's not being schemed touches in space. He's now as part of the necessity of, well, I'll just dump it off. Dak is like, I'll just dump it off. Right. The Arizona game, even the 3 receptions, Tony Pollard had -1 receiving yard. What? How is that possible for a player like Tony Pollard? Well, I'll tell you how it's possible. It's because these types of plays and these are not designed to get Pollard into space. They're designed to get Dak out of trouble. And so the offensive line for the Cowboys has been collapsing, and it's been hurting Pollard and his efficiency. Like, Pollard was an extremely high efficiency player, even with a decent amount of touches last year. But the role has shifted and the offensive line has changed. And that's why we've seen Tony Pollard not perform to what we expected. Like, he's running back 23 in total fantasy points on the season. He's finished outside the top 36 twice, but those 2 times have come over the last 3 games. So I don't have a lot of optimism that Tony Pollard is going to be, elevating the rest of the way. He does get Carolina, but once again, we can talk ourselves into a game script of Tony Pollard where Pollard gets scripted out because Bryce Young gets sacked 7 times, because Bryce Young throws 2 more interceptions, because there's another fumble by the Panthers, and the Panthers don't have the offensive firepower to get back into the game. And the Panthers don't have a strong defense either. Brian Burns has been dealing with injuries. The whole team has had its issues. And so Carolina just doesn't stand a chance, even if it's a home game against the Dallas Cowboys. Like, Dak has still played very, very well. And so I'm very concerned that Tony Pollard will not be able to pay off what we had hoped at the beginning of the year. I was one of the Tony Pollard truthers. But the truth will set us free. And the truth right now is that there's not a pathway for Tony Pollard to be the answer that we want him to be. Will he be a safe running back too moving forward? Probably. Like, he'll get his touches. He'll fall in the end zone. Regression is coming. You can't go with that many touches around the red zone and the goal line and not convert. Like, you have to be cursed, literally cursed. And I don't think Tony Pollard's cursed. He's just been a little unlucky as of late. He still has Carolina, as I said. There's a chance that he falls in the end zone there. Washington, definitely beatable. Seattle, extremely beatable on the ground. Philly, Tony Pollard went 12 for 51. 3 for 12 through the air, finishes running back 28. I think that is probably going to be about right, a low end running back 2 for Tony Pollard in that matchup. But then against Buffalo, Miami, and then Detroit, those games can all turn into shootouts. Like, we're here for the massive shootouts. I drafted so much Dallas Detroit, and I'm looking forward to that game turning into something special. So Tony Pollard, I don't have optimism that over the next few weeks he's going to be getting there, but it would not surprise me if he finishes, during the shootout weeks. If you're trying to buy low on a player, Tony Pollard is your buy low, because he's not going to get any lower than where he's at right now. Outside the top 36 over the last 2 weeks, you're going to see a little bit more effective Tony Pollard, but I'm not confident that he's going to be your running back 5, running back 4, running back 3, etc. On weeks, at least over the next few weeks. But that shootout looks so juicy, right? And that's why we're drafting a lot of Pollard, a lot of CD Lamb, a lot of Amon-Ra St. Brown in our Week 17 best ball matchups, because the Detroit-Dallas matchup was going to be very nice, and we wanted that. So it was really easy when you were in your best ball drafts to just tap Pollard and Lamb, Amon-Ra, Pollard, Amon-Ra, Lamb, and in the 1-2 turn, and just do it. Boom. So there we go. Appreciate that question about Tony Pollard. I didn't think I was going to talk that much about Pollard, but you kind of hit a nerve there, Gopher, a real Gopher. I appreciate you jumping in, asking about it, and we'll go from there. Okay, cool. So that's not the one I want. I want this one. Cool. Let's keep answering some questions. I love it. Boofy. Shout out to you from YouTube. If you guys are new and you like the content, make sure you're smashing that subscribe button. Okay, guys. Kyle Juszczyk, Amir Abdullah, Raheem Blackshear for a running back 2. Lord have mercy. This is disastrous. 13-team league, and you can't get someone better than that, Boofy? What? I mean, Raheem Blackshear, I have a 32 team league, and Raheem Blackshear is not even my running back 3. Okay. He's like my running back 5. I think I have Myles Gaskin over him. I have Rashad White, Tazi Spears, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and this is a 32 team league. So that's why it like drops off really fast. And then I have Myles Gaskin, Raheem Blackshear on that team. But I understand sometimes you're like scraping the bottom of the barrel to get some fantasy usefulness. I understand. Still gross. Give me Kyle Juszczyk. Give me the juice. He's got the juice. Yeah. Anyone heard it's corn? Yeah, if you're not familiar, go into TikTok and search corn. I spend too much time on TikTok. It's disastrous. All right. Madi Kobaisi. I probably butchered that. I apologize. Trade Fields, Tony, and Kincaid for Engram and Amon-Ra. Ooh, I got Dak and Andrews, Bijan, White, Ford still. My wide receivers are Smith, Devonta Smith, I assume. Moore, DJ Moore, and Nico Collins. I won't be starting Kincaid or Fields. I need to make a playoff push. Wow. I think that's okay in your redraft leagues. I definitely wouldn't do that in Dynasty, but in redraft, I get it. You need your wide receiver 1. Devonta Smith is not a wide receiver 1. He can have wide receiver 1 weeks, but it does not make him a wide receiver 1. Devonta Smith is like a mid-pack wide receiver 2. He's running wide receiver 18. That's how you should view him. He can hit some spike weeks, but he'll also die on you, and you just need to live with the lumps. But with Dallas Goedert expected to be out for a little bit, that's where Devonta Smith is more likely to hit those wide receiver 1 weeks because of the volume. And we saw that last year. There wasn't a game that Dallas Goedert missed where Devonta Smith had fewer than 8 targets. So Devonta Smith is going to be a nice play moving forward. And AJ Brown, of course. AJ Brown is going to stay where he is. AJ Brown is a top 5 wide receiver, but Devonta Smith, I think, deserves to be top 12, if not top 10, rest of way until Dallas Goedert returns. I do not mind this trade to be able to acquire Amon-Ra St. Brown. Okay. Tai Chandler, Keaton Mitchell, or Donta Foreman. Assuming Herbert stays on IR. Thanks as always. Yeah. So Donta Foreman is questionable this week. It's probably maintenance, veteran maintenance. That's my guess. We don't know. At this point. We'll find out. Keaton Mitchell, we'll talk about him in just a second. Tai Chandler is expected to get the start for Minnesota this week, given that Alexander Madison's outlook to clear the concussion protocol is not looking good. It would surprise me if Alexander Madison plays this weekend. Okay. It would surprise me. Yeah, because Minnesota takes on Denver Sunday night. You're going to be waiting around for it, but Tai Chandler is probably going to get the bulk of the carries. Now, that also doesn't mean a ton. If you're in dire straits and you need a starting running back, Tai Chandler is probably the play. But it's also not looking good because Tai Chandler's not great. His rushing efficiency simply isn't there. He's not a good running back. He was drafted in the end of the 5th round, maybe beginning of the 6th round a couple of years ago. And he's not really produced very much. We got a touchdown last week in the absence of Alexander Madison. So if you need a pulse, if you need someone to get volume, he's a running back 2 right now for me, probably in the running back 20 to 24 range is how I'd value him, because that's been about where Alexander Madison has been this season. Madison's not been super efficient either. My hope and prayer is that Dwayne McBride finally gets a chance. Please, for all that is good and holy, I've been preaching. Dwayne McBride, just give him a chance. Please, just give Dwayne McBride a chance, and it'll like be beautiful. But unfortunately, we're looking at Tai Chandler right now, a preliminary ranking of running back 26. Once we get more confirmation that Madison is going to be out, I'll move Chandler up to about running back 20 to 24 is about the range where I would be comfortable putting him. But if you want to take a swing, if you are projected to lose by a lot, Keaton Mitchell is the home run play. Keaton Mitchell is the home run play. I do have Keaton Mitchell ranked behind Tai Chandler in median projections, but you can't ignore what Keaton Mitchell's done over the last 2 weeks. Yeah, he has only gotten about 15, 20% of snaps, but 12 carries over the last 2 weeks for 172 yards, and he's caught 2 passes for 28 yards. He has 2 touchdowns, finished as the running back 5 and running back 19 over the last 2 weeks. He is the home run play. You're down by a lot, play Keaton Mitchell. You just need volume to keep yourself safe. Give me some Tai Chandler. That's how you approach these types of things when they're very close, but one guy has the volume going for him. The other one has the explosiveness. That's kind of the strategy behind this answer, Mark. I'm sorry it's a little bit nuanced, but it depends on what you need. And no, I'm not playing Donta Foreman over either of those two right now, because Foreman is probably going to be, a running back 2, a back end running back 2, but I'm not excited about his, because maybe it's going to eventually be a Roshan week. Like, we're always waiting. Will it come today? It's like waiting for, the second coming of Jesus. Like, is it going to come today? Like, please, like, I don't know. We've been hoping and praying for centuries. It feels like, but it's not coming. And I don't think Roshan Johnson is coming this week. I don't think that, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about, Jesus' second coming this weekend, but I don't think that Roshan is going to do that this weekend either. Maybe it will, though. Maybe. Who knows? I don't know. If you know, let me know. Maybe it's Roshan week. We've been hoping it's Roshan week for some time. Okay. Bryce Ridley, shout out to you from YouTube. Thoughts on Amari Cooper moving forward? Then should I trade Kyler for Bijan? Is it Kyler or is it Kenneth Walker? I can't remember the nicknames. KW3 usually is the abbreviation for Kenneth Walker. How are we approaching Amari Cooper moving forward? Yeah, so for those who missed the news, Deshaun Watson out for the season with the shoulder injury. He played the majority of the Week 10 game with that fracture of his shoulder. He also played with a high ankle sprain for most of the game. Amari Cooper, it's Dorian Thompson-Robinson. It's not PJ Walker, who's going to be getting the start the rest of the season. And unfortunately, Dorian Thompson-Robinson is he's not shown it yet. He's not shown it yet. I'm rooting for him. I hope he does. I hope he plays well. But we can't have a lot of optimism about Dorian Thompson-Robinson. So Cooper's outside the top 24 moving forward. Even though he's had a few good weeks over the last few weeks, he's finished as a wide receiver 27, 4, and 20. And he's 89 receiving yards or higher 4 of the last 5 games. So he might be hyper targeted, but we can't trust DTR right now. And that's why you can't trust Amari Cooper. Should you trade Kyler for Bijan? Depends on what you need. It depends on what you need. If it's Kenneth Walker, I still value Walker over Bijan, as wild as that sounds. Za215 yo in Dynasty, trade Mostert, Amari Cooper, and Dubs for King Henry and Nico Collins. So you're trying to win, right? And trading Amari Cooper away in Dynasty, that's tough. If you can get King Henry and Collins for those 3, I think that's worth it. Because Henry may have had one bad game. I'm not worried about Henry right now, because Tazi Spears also was not, a player that showed out for Tennessee. Like Tennessee just overall did not play well, last week. And Tazi Spears finished as the running back 33, 5 for 18, not a great yards per attempt. He did have 4 catches for 42 yards, but give me the King Henry side still. I'm not super worried about Spears right now. Cool. A real gopher, super in depth, very informative. Feel blessed for the time and dedication. Thank you so much, Bradley. Run Brad to another gopher to human. Appreciate you, real gopher. Shout out to you. And just like real gopher, if you like the content, you found this helpful, make sure you guys are smashing that subscribe button. Okay. Is Najee and Kincaid for Pittman fair? I have Hawkinson. My initial reaction is I'd be willing to do that. To get Pittman, depends on how bad your wide receiver core is. Yikes. If that's all you can get for Pittman, though, I would try to get someone a little bit better than Michael Pittman. Here's the thing. Michael Pittman leads all wide receivers in interceptions on passes thrown his way. And that's a problem. That is a big-time problem. He's also on bye this week. Indy is. So if you can wait another week and just roll with Najee and Kincaid, unless the trade deadline, is this week and you got to make that call. That's what I would do. I would wait another week because Najee's not the starter in Pittsburgh anymore. Did you know that? Did you guys know that Najee Harris was not named the starter for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Jaylen Warren was named the starter in week 10. It was wild stuff. And I said this offseason, I preferred, because they were getting drafted pretty much back to back. I preferred Tyler Algier over Jaylen Warren because we knew that Tyler Algier was the more secure handcuff. We knew that Tyler Algier could handle the full workload if Bijan Robinson went down. My argument was contingency. I did not have it in the range of outcomes that Jaylen Warren would overtake Najee Harris in the Pittsburgh backfield. I mean, look, fancy analysts are going to say what they're going to say, but they said, "Oh, I believe that Jaylen Warren is going to out." It's like a couple years ago, Tony Pollard is going to take over the Dallas backfield. Like Tony Pollard still didn't get as many touches as Zeke, but Pollard was the more dynamic back. So we could see Pittsburgh move on from Najee Harris here very soon because they don't want to extend him. They're going to decline the 5th-year option for Najee Harris. And just like Tony Pollard, it wouldn't be surprising to me if Jaylen Warren follows that same trajectory. So, yes, if you can get out from Najee Harris, that'd be good. But probably one more week if you can afford it, because it depends on the trade deadline, right? Depends on the trade deadline. We got a flex one. Puka, Tank, Dell, or Addison. Wow. That's tough. So my initial rankings are Tank Dell at 22, Puka at 21. So a coin flip there. And then Addison at 30. So the initial rankings have them there. I'm going to do some tweaks, between now and Thursday. And if you want to find more of my rankings, I will have those updated tomorrow before the Thursday games. Go to bestbellfantasy.com, go to rankings and click on weekly rankings. And you will be able to see the rankings there. And you can sort by flex, half PPR, full PPR, standard, put defense, special teams, kickers, quarterbacks, the whole bit. You want it, it'll be there tomorrow before the Thursday games. So check that out, guys. bestballfantasy.com and the weekly rankings, which will be posted tomorrow before the Thursday games. Okay. I don't have the weekly rankings posted yet on website because I'm still, working through the initial postings. I don't want to post those quite yet, but tomorrow before the games, you can check it out. Bryce Ridley, trade proposal, Brian Robinson, Ayuk, and Thielen for Derrick Henry and Tyreek. Look, it depends, Bryce. You're trying to upgrade your wide receivers, and there's only been one wide receiver with a better yards per route run this year than Tyreek Hill. His name is Brandon Ayuk. That's right. Brandon Ayuk has been crushing and a very high floor type of guy. Depends on what you need, of course. If you need that wide receiver one and you need to go out and get him, then Tyreek Hill is your answer. Tyreek Hill is going to be the answer. Tyreek Hill is going to be a lot of fun rest of the season. And I know some people are like, oh, well, he gets, some tough matchups, blah, blah, blah. Okay. He gets Vegas, which is going to be a lot of fun. He's going to have the time of his life, against Vegas in Miami. Then he does get a tough matchup against the Jets, but still, the worst we've seen from Tyreek Hill this year is 8 for 62 and 3 rushing yards. Then he gets Washington and Tennessee. Delicious matchups. Then he gets the New York Jets again, which I get it, but still, Mike McDaniel is going to scheme him touches. He's going to get no fewer than 10 targets in the games. I mean, he has fewer than 9 targets in one game. And that was week 4 against Buffalo, where he went 3 for 58 and had a touchdown and also 14 yards rushing. Whereas week 16, Dallas. Week 16, Dallas. And then week 17, again at Baltimore. Oh, that could be so delicious. Or it could be a snow game. We'll find out. But the way the Ravens have been playing, their offense has been firing on all cylinders. The game could be an absolute shootout. I am here for both the Dallas-Detroit game, week 17, and the Miami-Baltimore game, week 17. That's one that I was targeting very, very heavily. I had a lot of Hill. I had a lot of Tua and Waddle. I had a lot of Lamar and Mark Andrews. I stacked so many teams with Hill and then Andrews and Lamar and Jalen Waddle and just whoever I could get from Baltimore, Miami, that week 17 matchup, especially an underdog. So Tyreek Hill is a player that I definitely want on my team. And Derrick Henry, Brian Robinson, coin flips. As I said, Brian Robinson has shown a ceiling, but also Derrick Henry has shown a ceiling this year. Thielen has been earning targets. He's a nice high floor guy and has shown a couple ceiling games this year as well. But give me Derrick Henry and Tyreek from here. Yeah. Especially rest of season. Even if Henry goes to 0, Tyreek Hill probably still makes up for the difference between the Derrick Henry 0 and whatever running back you can pick up off of the waivers. Bryce Ridley, you think Aaron Jones is awful moving forward? Man, that's a question that I was not anticipating. Given all of the Green Bay paraphernalia, I cannot say one nasty thing about Green Bay Packers players aside from the Jordan Love rants. But it's not Jordan Love's fault. It's not Jordan Love's fault. It is the coaching staff's fault of Green Bay. It's their fault. It is their fault. They are to blame for the failures of the development of Jordan Love. They missed on the Amari Rodgers pick. They missed on the Josiah DeGuara pick. They missed on, Jordan Love himself. They traded up for Jordan Love. They gave up premium draft picks. They've hit pretty well on Jaden Reed, and I like Christian Watson. Both players I think are very good. They're good wide receivers, and Romeo Doubs has played well this year. But I am not a fan of Jordan Love in that pick and what it did to the entire organization. It exposed the coaches for what they are, and that's frauds. Aaron Rodgers was able to shield so much of the flawed play calling by his talent. And so Aaron Jones, awful. I mean, he gets the LA Chargers this week, and the LA Chargers just got gashed for 3 rushing scores with Gibbs and David Montgomery. Jones did have the running back 9 finish in week 9 against the LA Rams, 13 for 35 against Pittsburgh last week. Remember, Pittsburgh, though, is a tough front 7 to run against. We can't ignore that. And 4 for 19 through the air. Yeah, it was disappointing. He didn't get a touchdown, but he gets the touchdown. We're talking about 13 fantasy points. He's now running back 15, running back 12. The narrative is very, very different for Aaron Jones, who is once again questionable. He had 19 opportunities in this game against a tough defense. And Green Bay, some of the bad calls happen, fine, whatever. But good teams overcome bad calls. And Green Bay is not a good team. They deserve what they're getting this year. They deserve it. It's okay. We just need to call it what it is. And this is coming from a Packers fan. So is he awful moving forward? He gets the LA Chargers. He gets the Detroit Lions, whom he got hurt against. He gets Kansas City, which is a tough defense. And then he gets a real nice one against the Giants. Then he gets a real tough one against Tampa. And then a nice one against Carolina. And then Minnesota could be a nice little shootout. So he's got some hits. He's got some misses. I think that he's a matchup dependent running back too. He's not an automatic start, but he's not an auto bench moving forward either. Eric Rojas. Is Mostert an automatic start this week? Yes. Yes, you're starting Raheem Mostert, even with Devon Achane expected to be activated. I expect Achane to be back. You should expect Achane to be back. Move him into your starting lineups until we hear that he's not ready, not activated. I think that Achane will get 30, 40% of the snaps to start. I don't think he'll get into that 50% plus snap share that we saw over the last 2 games where he was active before the injury. However, I think that his explosiveness is going to be key for the Miami Dolphins moving forward. They were certainly missing an element of that when it wasn't Mostert on the field. Remember, Jeff Wilson only earned 7 carries. Salvon Ahmed is Salvon Ahmed. He's not special as much as some people want Salvon Ahmed to be a thing. He's not a thing. Devon Achane, on the other hand, leads the entire NFL in yards per carry, guys. Yards per carry. He averages over 12 yards per attempt. 12. 12. 12. I'm not stuttering. It's wild. Look it up. Like, even remove all of the filters for minimum snaps, minimum carries. Devon Achane leads the NFL in yards per attempt. Give me that explosive man on one of the most explosive offenses in the history of the NFL. And that's just going to keep defenses honest when Mostert's out there too. We don't know if Mostert's going to be catching passes. We don't know if Mostert's going to be running. We don't know, and they have to respect whatever is happening with this offense. And so Mostert is a start this week. We do have to temper expectations. I don't think we're going to see Mostert get back in as the RB1 overall. Like, I will eat a sock live if Mostert is the running back 1 overall, in week 11. But here we are. Anything is possible. Anything is possible. Start 2, D-Hop, Ridley, or Jalen Warren. Oh, man, it's so hard to start Calvin Ridley these days. Because Zay Jones doesn't play, guys. I will keep beating that dead horse until it is no more. Calvin Ridley, outside my top 30 of initial rankings of wide receiver for this week. He finished as the wide receiver 70, 3 targets, 2 receptions, 20 yards in the spanking of the Jaguars against the San Francisco 49ers in Jacksonville. Calvin Ridley has finished outside the top 60 of wide receiver in 3 of the past 4 games. And now there's a concern about the targets, right? 2 of the last 3 games, Calvin Ridley 4 or fewer targets. That's a problem. That's not going to work. What we do need to work is Zay Jones. Zay Jones needs to get back out there. Zay Jones needs to get back out there. Calvin Ridley's averaging about 22 fantasy points per game with Zay Jones on the field. He's averaging about 7 or 8 fantasy points with Zay Jones off the field. We need Calvin Ridley back along with Zay Jones. Problem is Zay Jones got arrested for domestic violence, and he has a knee injury, which has been keeping him out. There's a whole host of reasons why this is a problem. And Calvin Ridley, yes, he gets the Tennessee Titans this week, which is a really, really nice matchup. But we keep going to the well of Calvin Ridley, and it's hard for us to have confidence in Ridley. We have more confidence in DeAndre Hopkins. We have more confidence that Jaylen Warren is going to get some explosive plays. He's going to get carries and touches, rushes out of the backfield. So give me the sit of Ridley right now. And it hurts my heart. It really hurts my heart because we need Zay Jones back. Okay. Tyler says, I need to fill that last wide receiver spot, picking between Thielen, D-Hop, and Nico Collins. Nico Collins is expected to play against Arizona. He's in my top 30 of wide receivers. Hopkins is at 16, though. And Thielen is at 18. So give me DeAndre Hopkins at Jacksonville. Yeah. Tyler Boyd right now is my wide receiver 35 there, Tyler. So that's how we can go with it here. Actison from YouTube, shout out to you. Thanks for tuning in. Half PPR, pick my lineup. Quarterbacks are Allen or Fields. Then we got Swift, James Cook, Singletary, Chandler. Then we got Diggs, Garrett Wilson, Engram, and Njoku. And then we got some flexes of Calvin Ridley or Zay Flowers, or any of the running backs, with Madison and Pierce expected to miss. Yeah, so we do expect Fields to play this week, which is good. Josh Allen, I have at 6. Fields, I have initially at 14 for this week. Fields at Detroit. Josh Allen against the Jets. And yes, I agree with you that Swift is your running back 1. And then looking at these running back 2s, you have to wonder if James Cook is going to get better work and more goal line work now that Ken Dorsey is out. For those who missed it, the offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills, Ken Dorsey, was fired after the Bills lost this past weekend. So James Cook has some sneaky upside to him. He's just so efficient. And Leonard Fournette was not activated for this game. Latavius Murray looked a little spry, but that was more surprising than anything. I do have James Cook over Chandler. And James Cook had 120 total yards this past week, despite finishing as the running back 24. That's what happens when you don't fall in the end zone. That's wild. Yeah, so James Cook, there's at least some more optimism. Plus, you're correlating with Allen and Diggs, even if it's a tough matchup against the Jets. Yeah, Singletary, though. Oh, man. It gets Arizona. It's so tempting. I think I have Singletary ranked ahead. So Singletary and then Cook and then Chandler is how I have those ranked at running back. And then the flex. If OBJ misses, because remember, OBJ got hurt in this game. If OBJ misses, we're putting in Zay Flowers again. But if OBJ is active, then we're going to have to go with so Singletary and then James Cook, I think, is how we're going for that. Okay. James said full PPR. Do we start Nico Collins, Christian Kirk, or Rashee Rice? Well, Rashee Rice has been the best wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs. Leads them in targets, yards per route run, PFF receiving grade. Rashee Rice has played very well. We can't ignore what he's done. Problem is that just because he leads the team in targets doesn't mean that he has a huge target share. The distribution is very even, relatively speaking. So Rice goes against Philly, which is extremely susceptible in the secondary. This game could turn into a big time shootout. I'm surprised that it wasn't the highest over under on the week. Yeah, only 45.5. That's kind of surprising. Maybe Vegas is building in the Jalen Hurts knee injury to be a thing. I don't know. I expected that to be a little higher. It is in Kansas City. And we've seen shootouts go wild in Kansas City. But for right now, the initial ranking is Rice at wide receiver 32, Christian Kirk at wide receiver 20, and Nico Collins at 29. So Kirk and then Collins and then Rice is how I have them ranked. And as I said before, if you want to check out my rankings, you can do so on bestballfantasy.com. Go to rankings and click on weekly rankings. They will be updated for the Thursday games and reflective tomorrow before the Thursday night games start. It's not updated yet. You don't have to go there yet, but you should go and check out those rankings. I'm ranked now in the top 25 out of over 200 rankers in the Fantasy Pros Accuracy Rankings contest. So I want to make sure that y'all are getting some of the best advice in the industry by checking out my rankings. Done very well this year. And I just want to keep continuing to bring you guys quality content. Okay. Do I like Mostert or Rachaad White rest of season? Rachaad White is bad at running the ball. We know this. We know who he is. Rachaad White is bad at running the ball, but he is also very good at catching the ball out of the backfield. 326 receiving yards through 9 games, averaging a little less than 40 receiving yards per game. I mean, the last 4 weeks, 6 for 65, 7 for 70, 4 for 46, 2 touchdowns, 2 for 47, and a touchdown. Rachaad White is not benchable. I like Rachaad White rest of season, especially with Achane expected to come back in full strength. Give me Rachaad White. There's no one in Tampa to take away those types of touches. So give me that. Justin from YouTube, PPR start 2 this week. Gus Edwards, Singletary, or Chandler. Yeah, so I've said before, I have Singletary over Chandler, but I have Edwards slightly ahead of Chandler as well right now. That may change later on in the week as we get some more information about all 3 of those situations. But my initial Wednesday rankings for this is Singletary, then Gus Edwards, but it's close. And then Tai Chandler later, because I don't think Tai Chandler is particularly good at football. But when there's opportunities, back end running back too, I guess. Tyler Boyd or DK in the flex. Yeah, DK just had his best game of the season last week. He had the second most receiving yards and the most receptions of the season. Didn't get the touchdown, so it was kind of disappointing. But the LA Rams are a tough secondary. And if we remember, DK Metcalf, 3 for 47, but he did have the touchdown the last time that he faced off against the Rams. That's not going to get it done without the touchdown. So T. Higgins is expected to miss. Tyler Boyd should be in your top 25 or so. I think we can move Tyler Boyd up there. I wonder if I've adjusted for T. Higgins to be out. Tyler Boyd is at wide receiver 35 right now for me, but I think he deserves to be over Zay Flowers. He deserves to be over Amari Cooper. He deserves to be over Calvin Ridley. I mean, Tyler Boyd last week without T. Higgins and with Jamar Chase's back still ailing, 8 for 117 on 12 targets, and he just missed a touchdown. Had he gotten the touchdown, we're talking top 5 wide receiver on the week. So I think Tyler Boyd is a safe top 24 play, high floor guy. And I know it's against Baltimore, but the last time that Tyler Boyd played Baltimore, 6 for 52 on 8 targets. So I think that that's just fine. Boyd has touchdowns. He's got chemistry. I like him as a top 24 play, but it's going to be really hard for us to. This is where we don't want to get cute. Like, we know what DK Metcalf is, and it's less likely that DK Metcalf is going to be outperformed by Tyler Boyd. But I think these are pretty close to back-to-back. I have DK Metcalf ranked at 19 right now. So mid-pack wide receiver 2 versus Boyd, who would be probably back-end wide receiver 2. But I get it. This is why we're asking, because it's a lot closer. It's a lot closer than what we initially would think. Jacob Anders says, I have Tua, Kyler, got 2 offers for Kyler. One is for Jerome Ford, and the other is for Jalen Waddle. What do you think? He's Mixon, Javante, Gibson. Wide receivers are Amon-Ra, Terry, Hopkins, Flowers, Sutton. You're all set at wide receiver. At running back, Mixon, Javante, Gibson, and Henderson. I mean, you probably should get a better running back than Jerome Ford. Yeah. You need to get a better running back than Jerome Ford. You have the right idea of targeting a running back, but you need a better running back than that. That's how I'd try to find a different trade partner. Okay, start 3. So I got to sit one of these. I got to sit one of DK, Waddle, Amari, or Garrett Wilson. Yeah, we're going to sit Amari Cooper. I have Garrett Wilson at 14, DK at 19, Waddle at 13. Yeah, Amari Cooper. We're sitting Amari Cooper. One more for you. When Higgins is back, do we like Higgins or Noah Brown better? Yeah, I'm very interested to see, once both Robert Woods and Nico Collins are back in the lineup, what Noah Brown's role looks like, because he's played very well. The reason why we're asking this question is because Noah Brown actually looks really good. He looks good on the field. He's stretching the field. CJ Stroud trusts him to make catches. Like, he's a big-bodied guy, 6'2", 220. He can make plays. And we've seen explosive weeks from Noah Brown before. I get why we ask it, because Noah Brown has been the hot thing. We also know what player T. Higgins is. T. Higgins is really good. He was the 33rd pick in the draft. Clemson product, almost a first-round pick. He's just been dealing with injuries this year, which has been really unfortunate. So give me T. Higgins rest of season. But obviously for this week, we're starting, Noah Brown over T. Higgins because, T. Higgins. But even the week T. Higgins gets back, I understand why we're a little skeptical about T. Higgins. We want to see him in full action before he's proven it. So rest of season, full rest of season, give me Higgins. But Noah Brown over the next 2 weeks is the answer. Are we starting DK over Evans or Ayuk? The answer is no. The answer is no. I have Ayuk at 11 for this week, and I have Evans at 9. DK all the way down at 19, as I mentioned. These are just Wednesday rankings, just an initial, drop it on you. Let's see how it is. But, yeah, give me Evans and Ayuk over DK Metcalf. Yeah, I know teams don't necessarily need a quarterback. If we really do get to the deadline, you need to get a Jerome Ford player. I just think you can get someone slightly better than that. Let me see if I can look up some players who you can target for trading Kyler away. If you can get Joe Mixon, Javante Williams. You can get Rashad White. James Cook. Like, give me those guys over Jerome Ford. Yeah, I think that is the move. If you can, Jacob. Those are some ideas. Best of luck. Redraft. Should I trade Andrews, Mixon, James Cook for Kelsey and Bijan? No. No. Don't do that. Start Fields or Burrow. 6-point passing touchdown. Ooh. I mean, we expect that Burrow is going to be able to, play pretty well. Burrow, wow, is back-to-back. These are back-to-back in my rankings. I have Burrow at 13 initially, Fields at 14 initially. We'll see if we make some shifts for right now. But yes, I do have Burrow slightly over Justin Fields. All right, cool beans. I did not think this would go for 75 minutes, but this has been a lot of fun. I appreciate all of you. If you haven't subscribed on the YouTube channel, smash the subscribe button, guys. If you like the content and you found this helpful, I appreciate your support. It's all good. Dylan is saying that Bijan has a juicy playoff schedule. I agree. But does Arthur Smith think so? Because that's all that matters, Dylan. And then Kelsey, obviously an upgrade. You want to... I mean, is he though? Mark Andrews is pretty close to the same tier, and I don't think it's worth. I mean, yeah, it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. I think you need to hold on to your guys. Start Pollard and Cook as your running backs, and then just good job holding on to Spears. That's smart. That's real smart. Diggs and Ayuk as your wide receiver 1 and 2. Hollywood is a flex possibility. Yeah, Andrews. I mean, Kelsey can certainly be a big time play for you for sure. In this Philly game, Kansas City versus Philly, the Kelsey versus Kelsey narrative, right? Is Taylor Swift going to show up in Kansas City? We all need to know. She probably isn't. And that's why the line is at 45.5 instead of 50. But Mahomes has had he's had 2 top 5 weeks this entire season, 2 out of 9. That's not going to get it done, guys. And maybe he does go off against Philly, who has a really susceptible secondary. But looking at the rest of the way, Vegas looks like a pretty nice schedule, a pretty nice matchup. Green Bay is hit or miss the secondary and defense. Buffalo has had its issues. New England, Vegas has a good matchup, but then you get a really tough matchup with Cincy in week 17. So there you go. I don't know. I don't view the Mandrews downgrade as much of a downgrade as it was being viewed earlier in the season, especially with the Taylor Swift effect. Okay. Goff or Mahomes this week. Wow. I mean, Mahomes has quarterback 1 overall in his range of outcomes. Jared Goff, on the other hand, he's had 2 top 4 weeks, but hasn't finished as quarterback 1 overall, and he gets Chicago. The reason why Goff can't access those elite overall number 1 overall weeks is because he's not as consistently throwing the touchdowns. He did throw for 2 touchdowns against the Chargers in that big shootout game. But you think Chicago is going to immediately turn into a shootout game? First game back with Justin Fields? I'm skeptical. Jared Goff and the Lions also love running the ball. They also love running the ball. So you could see just a lot of Jahmyr Gibbs, a lot of David Montgomery, and Jared Goff, thrown for 1 or 2 touchdowns, which is fine, for 250, 300 yards, which is fine. Maybe throwing a pick, but probably not. He's thrown 5 on the season. Jared Goff, though, give me the Philly matchup. I want pieces of that game. I want to root for that game. It's going to be a fun game Monday night. Okay. Appreciate your advice. Thanks, Justin. Yeah, there we go. All right, guys, I got to call it a night. I'm exhausted. My kiddos have been sick all week and all weekend, this past weekend. I want to get some content out for you this week. Tomorrow on Player Profiler, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Hop onto that channel, on the YouTube channel. I'll answer your Thursday night start sits against the Cincinnati Bengals at Baltimore. So make sure you guys are checking that out, 7:30 to 8 p.m. Don't be late, because it's a tailgate. Bring your beer, show up, have a lot of fun. We're going to have a great time. And then on Saturday, the Dominator with Billy Muzio. It's the best start sit show in the entire industry. Billy, an elite fantasy player. And of course, yours truly will be joining him in the Dominator lineup lockdown edition for week 11 on the Player Profiler channel, 9 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. Make sure you guys are checking it out. It's always a lot of fun. It's a great time. The boys are always back in town there. I appreciate y'all jumping in, supporting the channel, supporting me, supporting this community. I've got a lot of exciting things on the horizon that I can't wait to share with y'all. But until next time, everyone, good luck in week number 11.
I embrace all this risk, I'm insane. Talking about that best bill, I'm the best rest till into the next world. Guess I got next still. Best bill, I'm the best rest till into the next world. Guess I got next still.